everyone, it's Moose, and thank you so much for joining me back here. It's been a while since I actually sat down to do a video about books. 2 months? 3 months? Roundabout? Oh well, I'm sorry. Today we are going to do my end of the year wrap up, talking about all the books I read in November and December. Let me just say I did meet my reading goal for 2021. My goal was 60 books. I did complete that on the last day of the year. I was ahead for so much of the year because I read so much at the beginning, from like January to like May maybe, and then it progressively started to slow down until come like November I was reading like 1 book a month, 1.5 maybe. So I kind of had to choose some shorter books in December, books I knew I would get through quickly so I could meet my goal, because I was so close. I was like 58, I think, no, 56, 57, somewhere around in there when December rolled around, and I was like, there's no excuse for me to not meet my goal this year. So I kind of picked up the pace and finished out strong. We'll get to it. So here are the books I read in November and December. The first book I read in November is technically one I didn't read in November. I just finished it in November. I read the majority of it in like September and October. I don't know why it took me so long to get through this. It was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. My goal last year was to read through the Harry Potter books. I got through the first one. It is what it is. I started out reading it to my son. My son is almost 2. So he's at that age where he doesn't really stay interested in things for more than like 20 seconds. So I would get through like a page or 2 with him, and then he would get bored and want to go do something else. So I started out reading it to him, quickly figured out that's not going to work. Started reading it on my own. Finally finished it in November. Didn't get around to any of the other ones. But I still read it last year in 2021. The next book I read was Home on Huckleberry Hill, which I think is the last one in the series, The Matchmakers of Huckleberry Hill. I did find one more, but it was co-written by Jennifer Beckstrand and other authors. And I got through like the first chapter, and this was in the middle of my reading slump, so maybe it contributed to this, but then I just found that I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't really feeling it. It was kind of a sad story even from the beginning, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I think this is the last one in the official series written just by Jennifer Beckstrand. So I did read this whole series last year. This one particularly I liked, I found interesting. Most of the time in these romance stories, specifically this series, the couples are, I don't know how to put it. They oftentimes don't know each other. They kind of meet within the story, and then the grandparents get them together and all that kind of stuff. And this one, the couple, Mary Ann and Jethro, are already married and kind of having some marital problems. She actually ends up leaving him, but doesn't have anywhere else to go. So she kind of sets up camp in their backyard. So she takes his tent. He's a real outdoorsy kind of guy. He loves to fish, he loves to camp and that kind of stuff. If you hear my daughter, she's dreaming right now. He likes to do outdoorsy stuff, so she kind of takes his tent and just sets up camp in his backyard and says, you know, I'm not with you anymore, and since we're married, half of this stuff is mine, so I'm just going to use your tent and live here until I can make enough money to move out on my own. And then Anna and Felty, which are the grandparents throughout this whole series, come camp with her. They're in like their 80s, and they come set up camp and have a little camp out with her. And then progressively her other cousins and the rest of her family kind of takes her side and comes and sets up camp with her just to kind of show her support. Because in the Amish community, you're not really supposed to leave your husband. So the rest of the community is looking down on her for this. And her family is kind of backing her up and saying, hey, we support you. We're going to come live in the woods with you. I enjoyed it. It was good. The next book I read was A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova, I think. I've seen this book a lot on like Instagram and Book Talk and even here on BookTube. And I needed, again, this was the point in time where I was like, I'm really close to my goal. I need to pick it up. So this book was kind of short. I thought I could get through it very quickly, so I did. I read A Deal with the Elf King. I think it's part of a series. Let me just say, I think this book in itself was good enough for me. I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series. I think it was a good standalone. Different than what I was anticipating, but very, very enjoyable. So in this book, the queen, I don't remember what it's called. There's a woman in this town who every 100 years, I think, is chosen to go live with the elves. They're not fae, they're elves. There is a difference. There are fae in this book, but they're different. So every 100 years, the woman is chosen to, she's supposed to have magic in her blood, and the elf king just inherently knows which one it is. Or I think she's supposed to be chosen by like this group of priest type figures in her world. They kind of identify her and say, hey, she's the girl with magic. She's the one that needs to go be the queen with the elf king. So, but this time around, they didn't do that. They didn't find her. So the story starts out, they're thinking, hey, we don't have a queen to give to the elf king. They're already a year late. So the elf king comes himself and is like, hey, I demand my queen. Where is she? He kind of snuffs her out and finds her and takes her back to his world. And within his world, it's kind of bare and dying. And the queen is the one who kind of brings life back to his world. That's all I'm really going to say about it because I don't want to give too many spoilers. I really like the magic system in this, particularly surrounding the queen. Ellie's dreaming. I can hear her. Anyways, so yeah, I really like the magic surrounding her. I thought it was an interesting story overall. I would recommend it if you're looking for just a quick romantic read. The romance itself was not my favorite, but the story was good, if that makes sense. With that being said, the romance wasn't bad by any means. It was just typical YA romance that I'm kind of over. I'm over it. I'm over the YA romance type thing. I don't know. I was really into that kind of stuff like before I got married and when I didn't really have a romance of my own. But since getting married and finding my husband, I can take it or leave it. I like for the romance to be there, but in terms of like the spice, you know, I don't care. I don't care if that's in the book or not. I want the relationship. I don't want the lust, if that makes sense. Anyways, moving on. I reread An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This was a second chance for me. I read it when I first started BookTube, actually. I think it might have been one of the first books I did a review on. And that book review was positive. But as time went on, as I thought about the book, it kind of got tainted a little bit, especially after hearing other people talk about it. The ending for me was weird when first reading it. And so much so that my whole opinion of the book was kind of tainted. I found myself in my head reflecting on it and being like, that book could have been great, but it wasn't because of the ending. So I wanted to reread it, and it's kind of short. I needed a short book to hit my goal, so I reread it. And my opinion changed. I'm finding that as I give books new chances, I recently did this with The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, as I am giving books second chances, books that were a little disappointing the first time around, I'm liking them better the second time around. So I gave this book another chance, really liked it. I took my time with the ending, kind of really slowed down and tried to picture what it was saying, and I think it helped. Overall, this is the book that really made me enjoy fae books, fae novels. The fae are just such an interesting concept to me, and I think in a lot of other stories they are called fae but often portrayed as human, with like magic, and then that's the extent of it. This book itself, I think, portrays the fae in such an interesting way. They can't lie, which in itself is just an interesting concept, to have a character that can't lie, that everything that comes out of their mouth is true, at least to them. So interesting. They do have magical capabilities, that kind of stuff too. The things that they eat, it's kind of a gross book to read through, especially when she makes it to the spring court, the spring lands, whatever it's called. And they're at the feast, and the glimmer has kind of been placed on the foods where it looks like normal food until she touches it and she realizes it's rotten, and the Fae are just sitting around eating rotten food. It's so interesting to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed my reread of this book. If you read it before and you were a little disappointed by it, I encourage you to maybe give it another chance, because it might be one of my favorite books about Fae at this point, since rereading it and kind of getting a firmer grasp on the ending of it. Because the ending is what kind of disappointed me to begin with. I like the rest of it. I've always liked the rest of it. The ending was the point for me that was kind of but since rereading it, it was great. I really enjoyed it. 2 more books. The next book I read was The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This book was recommended, I wouldn't say it's necessary. Yeah, it was. It was recommended to me by Ange. Hold on, I gotta look up her book, her actual channel name, because I always just call her Ange. I think it's just Books with Ange, is it? Yeah. Yep, Books with Ange. This was recommended, I cannot get through that sentence, was recommended to me by Books with Ange. She's talked about it a lot on her channel, so go check her out if you want more different thoughts on the book. This book, I wouldn't necessarily call it YA fantasy because there's no like magic elements to it, but it is definitely in that realm for me for some reason. It's more so like a political YA novel with like a hardcore female character. So in this one, our main character, Laura, I think I called it Lara when I was reading it, but thinking about it now, is it Laura? It's not L-A-U-R-A, it's L-A-R-A. So it's not Laura, it's Lara, right? Anyways, I'm going to call her Lara. Is a princess of one of the kingdoms in this world. And she and her sisters were sent to be trained to basically be spy assassins, pretty much. So she and her sisters were secluded as they were growing up. They were trained. They know combat, they know poisons, they know how to kill people, they know how to be spies, they know different codes to write written messages, all of that good stuff. And one of them is to be chosen to be married off to the prince, the king of what's called the Bridge Kingdom. The Bridge Kingdom is basically just a collection of islands that rule a bridge, which is used as kind of a crossways between lands for trade and importing goods and that kind of stuff. So they can control the bridge, which in turn means they make money from the bridge. They tax all of the things that are transported between kingdoms, all that kind of stuff. And they're very secretive. It's a very secretive kingdom. So the goal is Lara and her sisters are being trained to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Infiltrate the Bridge Kingdom and kind of reveal all of their secrets and get it to where their father can basically invade the land and take the bridge for himself. So Lara and her sisters are trained. One of them is to be chosen. Turns out it's not Lara, it's her other sister, Marilyn? Is that her name? I don't know. Either way, Lara finds out there's a plot to kill all of the other sisters that are not chosen. That way the king's, naughty, I took my daughters to be trained assassins, is not released to the public and his reputation is not soiled. Lara finds out and basically puts herself in the position to become queen. So there was a treaty between, I don't remember the name of her kingdom, between Lara's kingdom and the Bridge Kingdom, that after 15 years, one of the princesses would be married to the prince of the Bridge Kingdom. So this time has come to choose a princess to marry the prince, who is named Aaron. And Lara puts herself in a position to where she's the one chosen to do that. So she's taken She is given to the Bridge Kingdom. She marries Aaron, who is now king. He's not a prince anymore, who is king of the Bridge Kingdom. And her goal is to find out all their secrets, find out how his kingdom can be basically infiltrated and destroyed, and how her father can take over. There are 2 books in this series. I did read both of them, not in the month of December. I finished the second one at the beginning of this year, so I'm not going to talk about it. But there are 2 books in this series. Excellent. And was spot on, let me tell you. Our books and tastes are very similar. My dog is jumping at the door. Anyways, yeah, they're very similar. If you like political romances, I would recommend this one. It's really good. Fast-paced, good characters, good side characters too, that you come to enjoy and you come to appreciate, I think. So, yeah, good political fantasy or political romance YA. Again, it's not a fantasy. There's no magic or anything to it, but there's a lot of like fighting scenes. There's a lot of Lara being like, I don't cuss, but like a BA, you know, just a strong female character. The last book I read in December in 2021. Wow, the last book I read in 2021 was Radiance by Grace Draven. Grace Draven. That's kind of two R's, 2 like consonant R names back to back. I struggle with for some reason. Anyways, yeah, Radiance. This is a romance book. It's a fantasy romance book. YA, probably not. New adult, yeah, I guess. Yeah, again, I needed something short to finish out the year. And this one's kind of been on my radar a little bit because I've seen a lot of people talk about it. It's very popular on like the romance side of BookTube, on Book Talk, that kind of stuff. So I have seen a lot of people talk about it, and I have to admit, I was rather disappointed. I was not blown away by this at all. The story itself, I think, was interesting. I liked the concept of it. The writing is where I felt like it fell short for me, and I don't know why. It was descriptive. There was dialogue. I don't know what else to say. I don't know why it fell short for me. It felt kind of cringy, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know, well, I don't even remember their names. They're weird names throughout this. The male protagonist, the male interest, is constantly calling the female wife, and she's constantly calling him husband. Maybe I should give a premise of this book first before I go on. So in this book, it's a betrothed book again, kind of like the Bridge Kingdom. There's 2 different peoples, I guess. There's the female, who is part of like the human kingdom, and then there's the male. I can't even remember their names. I'm sorry. I don't want to call them monsters, but they're not human. You know, they have gray skin, they have long black fingernails, their teeth are sharp, their eyes are kind of like nocturnal, they don't see well in the dark, they live by the night, and they're betrothed to unite their kingdoms, you know, to form an alliance. So they meet before the wedding and they automatically hit it off, which is fine, cool. But I don't know. All of their interactions were just kind of cringy to me. They felt unnatural when the author was maybe trying to make it feel natural. I don't know. They're betrothed, they hit it off, they don't know that it's their betrothed, they just think there's some random person they met in the garden, and then they get married, and she is automatically just gung-ho loyal to this man. And while there's no reason for her to not be loyal, there's also no reason for her to be loyal, other than maybe the fact that he is her husband. But she didn't choose him as a husband. They were betrothed and forced to marry. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Just this instant. It's instant love. It's insta love. That's what it is. Maybe that's why I don't like this. I like insta love sometimes. This was not one of those times. Actually, I'm rambling about this book because I'm thinking through my thoughts as I talk it out. It's not necessarily insta-love because they make the comments in the beginning that you're not attractive. She's like, yeah, you're a monster. He's like, yeah, you're just like a stack of potatoes or something like that. I don't know. They're very honest with each other that they do not find each other attractive at the beginning, but they're married, so they're gonna stick it out. They're gonna be like, hey, cool, we'll hang out, we'll live together. We just don't have to consummate or anything like that, right? So time goes on and these feelings change. Shocker, right? I don't feel like that's a spoiler in saying that. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Kind of insta love with some like, you're ugly in between. Oh, what am I trying to say? I didn't care much for it. The writing was kind of cringy for me. Like I say, the concept was fine. I think there's more in this series. The ending, okay. I'm everywhere. Let me just say, the ending of this book was super interesting, super intriguing, but this was like the epilogue, okay? I'm referring to the epilogue, not the rest of the book. So one little section was interesting to me, and the rest was just kind of take it or leave it. And because of that, I'm not going to continue on with the series. I do think there's another one, at least one more. I have no idea how many is in this series, because frankly, I don't care. I'm not going to read them. So anyways, there we go. Those are the books I read in November and December. I finished. I did it. I finished out strong. I hit a huge reading slump there towards the end of the year. I'm still kind of in one. I am reading, just not quickly, but that's fine. That's besides the point. Either way, I finished out the year strong. I hit my 60 books. I read all of these books I just talked about. Some good ones. Some new favorites. I don't know. Maybe. I did say Enchantment of Ravens was probably my favorite. Ooh, I have something on them. My favorite Fae novel. So I guess there is that. Otherwise, though, yeah, take it or leave it. Whatever. Anyways, I'm over it. I've rambled way too long about these books. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe down below and leave a comment. Let me know how you finished out year 2021. Did you do well? Are you disappointed? If you are, I'm sorry, but it's a new year. You can try again, right? Try again. I'm going to try again. My goal is not that high this year. It's not as high as it was last year because now I have 2 babies to take care of. And it's a lot. Besides the point. You guys are awesome. I'm so thankful for you. And we'll meet back here next time, guys. See ya!